I'm laughing at myself right now. These are my favorite episodes in the world, or when the previous one didn't actually work. Well, I had a choice. I had a choice to stay in a hurry when I did the last episode, stay in a hurry and not check all my systems, or go back and check the systems and make sure everything was good. Well, the last episode, I didn't turn on my soundboard, my Rodecaster Pro, and therefore I didn't have any sound. My camera went out, and because I didn't check that. And so there was a choice that I had before I started off: slow down and do all my systems checks, or I can live with the result, choose not to, and do that. So Proverbs 5 today, which is the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, in this Inchstone series. And Inchstones, for those of you who don't know what that is, an Inchstone is simply a little tiny thing that, a bunch of little Inchstones turn into a milestone. And so it's little tiny actionable things that we could do today that will help us out. So my pops was big on this, the choice thing. He was always like, boy, you only can need to make one decision in life and one choice in life. And I was like, well, what is it, Pops? Well, we're going to tell you in this episode. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
The choice. Well, for those of you out there that are going to be attending the Vibe Room, I can't wait to see you. It's July 23rd. We're going to be in Salt Lake City at the Edison House. We're going to have Mr. Roy Tuscany, the founder of High Fives Foundation. I've actually got one of the hats right here. I'm going to unbox this or unbag this right now. The High Fives Foundation, in collaboration with Melon Hats. There we go. There's a kindness hat there for you. You guys see that one, which I think is absolutely incredible. This was given to me by none other than three-time Super Bowl champion, Mr. Lonnie Paxson. There was only 3 of those left in existence. And the melon hats, what I love about them is, for a big head like mine, you could wear a melon hat and it's not all the way on the outside here. They're made for larger heads. They have a extra large, this incredible brand. And High Fives Foundation, which is Roy Tuscany. This guy is an absolute phenomenon. He's going to be at the Vibe Room. I'm going to be interviewing him. Our musical guest is going to be Miguel Mendoza. I want to thank Justin Williams, Patrick Packer, and Kevin Borland for sponsoring. And it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal event. And the Vibe Room is a live version of the podcast. So we got a musical element to it. We do some interviews. It's going to be unreal. It's amazing because, like, I've been wrapped around this whole entire subject today, which has been the choice. That I have choices every single day. And these are the hard things, right? So I had a choice when I was a kid. I was probably 4th grade, walking home from school. There was a dog, and it was a little chihuahua, a little yapping chihuahua. And it was named Taco, and it was tied up on the side of the house. And the chain had just enough to be able to almost get to the sidewalk, but if you were on the sidewalk, you were safe. And so we would walk by and we would kind of mess with the dog a little bit, but we knew it couldn't get us. Well, one day, I thought, I'm really going to tease Taco today. And I stepped onto the lawn a few steps off to really get in his face because I knew where it could come to. And I had stepped too far. And when I stepped too far, that dog jumped up and latched onto my thigh and just took a big chunk out of my thigh. And I was so freaked out, and I was so mad and angry. I was crying. I went home and I was mad at the dog. And now when I look back at it, I had a choice. I had a choice to come off the sidewalk. I had a choice to mess with the dog, and there was results with that choice. And so in Proverbs 5, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, this is 3,000-year-old wisdom. And the reason why I love to be able to go to the wisdom part of it is because I like to look at the principle based as opposed to the thing of today. the trend of today or the flashy thing of today. I like to look at the wisdom part of it and the foundation. And honestly, a lot of our life comes down to choice. Just like I made the choice with Taco to step off of that sidewalk, we have choices every single day. And what God was saying today in Proverbs 5 was, you have a choice. And like my pops said, there's only one choice in the world that you need to make. And my pops would say, do you want your best or do you want God's best? And God reiterated this in Proverbs 5 today. And in the very first part of it, it was almost like a beware of dog sign, right? Beware of dog. Like, they don't just say beware, but every sign like that says beware of dog. Right? And I remember these as kids, like you would see it, and Taco didn't have one, but we knew to beware of that. I just was silly and made the choice and walked out of it, or walked over the top of it. But in Proverbs 5, in verse 1 and 2, this is a beware sign. And he says, beware of this certain path. There's a right path, there's a wrong path, right? And it's amazing because he was saying, pay attention, turn your ear. And then he gave the benefits of it. You'll maintain discretion and preserve knowledge in verse 1 and 2 in Proverbs 5. So think of this. How many times have we as a parent or as a child, if we're a child, we heard this, pay attention, turn your ear. And then they gave us the features and benefits, but we tuned out already when they said pay attention. But this is a lot of times what we do with God. But he was just saying, here's the sign, the placard, beware of Taco. Because Taco's going to jump up on your leg and take a chunk out of it. And so the cool thing with God is he'll always explain. He'll always explain and make sure that you know all the way through. And then he gives you the choice. He's not going to be over the top of you. He's not going to be overarching. He's not going to be, some people think of like, oh, God is going to doom me and do it. No, he's not. He's going to give you the choice. And we have a choice every single day to choose him or choose our best. Like choose his best, our best. But I can tell you this, in my experience, God's best is always better. Do I choose it all the time? Absolutely not, because I'm a human being and I mess up a lot. But here's where he said, this is why. In verse 3 through 7, he said, it starts out with your words, whether it be the words that you hear or the words that you say. But watch this. What we hear goes in through our ear, drops down into our heart. Our heart, when it overflows, comes out our mouth. So if we hear it, at some point, we'll say it. I remember growing up, and I was with my buddy Will, and we used to listen to a lot of gangster rap from the 90s and things like that. And that's when profanity first came into music, and we were listening to it a lot, and a lot of it was coming out our mouth. And so whatever you hear is going to come out your mouth at some point. So you just got to be conscious of this, right? So, and what God was saying is this is why, because words and then your actions, which is your feet. So your words, your feet, and then once your feet get moving, you'll get on a path. And so he was saying, beware of this, because it'll start off with what you hear or what you say. It'll culminate in your feet moving towards it. And then you'll end up realizing that I'm on this path, and you'll start to question why you're on that path. And then he reiterates this, and I love this about God because he's very simple, and he brings it, like he always brings it home, and he just said, stick to the path. He said, stick to the path. And I don't know about you, but being a bonehead little kid, I would be like, why? And he answered the question. He said, stick to the path, listen and don't turn aside. This is in verse 7 through 14. And he gave us the rundown of what we will lose if we don't stick to the path. When I say the path, it's his path, right? How do we spend time with him? Just one-on-one. It's no ritual, no religion. It's just one-on-one time with him. And how can we do that? We could start off with the word, read the word, then the word starts to read us. And so he said, like, stick to the path, but then he said, this is what you will lose if you don't stick to the path. You will lose honor, dignity, wealth, hard work, and your health. Can you imagine if a sign said, beware, if you go down this path, right, which will start with your words, then it'll move to your feet, then you'll end up that you're on that path. And this is what you'll lose. You will lose your honor, your dignity, your wealth, your hard work, and your health. That would be a pretty strong sign. But you know what? Some people would still jump the fence. And I could tell you, in times of my life, I would still jump that fence. Maybe you might be jumping that fence right now. And then he closes it in verse 7 through 14. You will end up in serious trouble. Now, it may sound like a redundant statement. You will lose honor, dignity, wealth, your hard work, and your health. And then he says, and you will end up in serious trouble. Well, I would think that all those were serious trouble, but what I love about God and his word is that it's complete, always. And he doesn't leave anything to chance because he wants to make sure that you know that he loves you exactly where you're at. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to go and cleanse yourself, or you don't need to be righteous. Nothing like that. He just loves you exactly where you're at, and he will do the work. One of my friends said to me years ago, and this hit me like a ton of bricks. He said to me, does a fisherman ever clean the fish before he catches them? And I looked at him. I was confused. I was like, how could he clean them before he caught them? He said, then why would you think that you need to become perfect or better before God catches you? He'll catch you, and then he'll do the work. It blew my mind at that time. And God follows up in verse 15 through 20, and just work your land. And it's very, very simple. Just work your land. Like, I've tried to work other people's land before, and you know what? I get frustrated. I do comparison. I get jealous, or I'll see somebody else's land and I'll say, man, that's great. Maybe it's someone else's profession, or someone else is doing well in this thing. And I think, man, I should be doing that too. And every time that I get outside of working my land, what is my land? My land is keynote speaking and podcasting, period. That's it. People ask about the Vibe Room. Well, the Vibe Room was a live version of the podcast. And when I keynote speak for companies, organizations, and conferences, what do I speak on? Speak on the vibe. It's not the energy that you bring into the room, but the way in which people feel when you leave. So your leadership doesn't matter. Your culture is irrelevant. And your systems will never work if the vibe is off. And how can we construct the vibe? It's your heart set, which is your belief system, your mindset, which is your intentions, and your skill set, which is your actions. Align the three, and you have an irresistible vibe. And that way we could bring that into leadership. We could bring it into culture. We could bring it into systems. And when your people feel great about those three things, they actually own the place as opposed to renting them. That's what I speak about. But that's my land. That's the land that I work. What is your land? And God said this. So he said, work your land. And if you do, he will bless these 5 things. He will bless your work. He will bless your family. He will bless your marriage. He will bless your wealth. And he'll bless your health. And then he simply follows it up with, don't be intoxicated by someone else's land. It's incredible because he breaks these things down, right? And so that's verse 15 through 20. And now he brings the haymaker. I love God because my pops was a boxer, and he would always say he would be jab, 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 jab. He would set him up, and then pow, knockout blow. And I believe that Proverbs does this all the time. He set us up, set us up, set us up, set us up, right? So when you look at from the very beginning, he just said there's a choice, right? But I'm going to put up the sign, say, beware. This is why I'm going to tell you to beware of that. Stick to the path, work your land, and then he knockout punch. He sees it all. In verse 21 through 23, he says he examines your path. He examines your path. He sees your deeds. He sees the things that you're doing. But more importantly, he knows exactly why you're doing it. And so he comes back and he says, but if you're doing the wrong thing, if you're going down the wrong path, if you've heard things or said things that have got your feet moving down the wrong path, simply come to me and I will make it all better. Simply just come to me. Give it up to me. And here's how it finished today. His lack of discipline will cause you to listen to things not of him. And every time that I listen to something outside of what God has me to hear is just because of lack of discipline. His wisdom is simple and will guide us always. God loves you at a level that he is willing to give you a choice, either him or the world. It's either God's best or your best. He then clearly lists out the challenges you will face without him. And then he reminds us there are unbelievable blessings when we accept his open invite to choose him. Think of that. He runs us down and gives us a blueprint basically for most of our entire life. Beware. This is why. Stick to the path. This is why. What you will lose if you don't stick to the path: honor, dignity, wealth, hard work, health. Work your land. If you work your land, he will bless your work, your family, your marriage, your health, and your wealth. Don't be intoxicated by somebody else's land. That's what he yells out. And then he simply says, I see it all. So since I see it all, and I see it before you actually go into it and before you make the choice, why don't you just make the choice of my best? Because I love you more than anything. And you don't need to get to me through a ritual or through a religion, just through a relationship with me every single day. Simple as that. So my name is Kelly Cardenas. I have had a phenomenal time with you today. Make sure and check out the Vibrome, which is a live version of the podcast. We've got Miguel Mendoza, who's going to be playing music. We got Roy Tuscany, the High Fives Foundation. You guys see that? That's a limited edition hat. Only 2 in existence right now, and we got that one out there. I'm going to put it in this screen. Roy Tuscany, High Fives Foundation. I'm going to be interviewing him. Miguel Mendoza is going to be bringing the music. I'm going to have some special surprise guests there, too. It's going to be unbelievable. Only about 10 tickets left. So we're going to have a great time. Thank you. A big shout out to Justin Williams, Kevin Borland, and Patrick Packer for being our sponsors and alliance partners there for the Vibrome. I want to thank you for tuning in, and make sure too, there's all different types of episodes on the podcast. So there's interviews of some of the most iconic people in the world. We've got the Inchstones, which is what you're experiencing right now. And also there is You Have to Meet My Friends, where I go live and I call my friends randomly. And when they answer, we have a conversation about whatever it is on that particular day, but they have no idea that they're going to be on the podcast until they're actually on the podcast. It's absolutely hilarious. So my name is Kelly Cardenas again, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain we